Hey there, and welcome to this deep dive. We're going to be taking a close look at Arista Networks. They're making some serious waves in the networking world, and their big thing is using data to make networks smarter, more efficient. We hear data-driven everywhere, but what does that actually mean for networking? That's what we're going to try to figure out today. We've got a ton of Arista's own technical docs, and we're going to dig through all the jargon, try to figure out what makes them different.
Exactly. And it's not just about keeping up with the buzzwords. The networking world is changing so fast. I mean, think about it. Cloud computing is exploding. AI is everywhere. Everyone wants more bandwidth and better security. These aren't just trends. They're completely changing the industry.
Yeah. It feels like there's a new challenge every day. Arista's been talking about a few key trends themselves, like digital transformation, the huge increase in streaming, and that secure access service edge. SASE, right. And of course, the shift to remote work, all the IoT and OT devices, the demand for AI applications, and the big one, cloudification.
And Arista is right in the middle of it all. What I find interesting is they're looking at this as an opportunity, not just as a connectivity problem, but a chance to rethink how networks are built and managed.
Okay, now I'm really interested. So what's their strategy for dealing with all of this? I know they talk about client to cloud and AI networking. What does that even mean?
Basically, they're saying the network needs to evolve. It needs to seamlessly connect everything from your laptop to the cloud, even those powerful AI systems. But here's the thing, they're also really emphasizing security, specifically through something they call network detection and response. It's like they're saying the network itself can be a security tool.
Now, that's a bold idea. How do they actually make that happen? What's the secret?
Well, there's no real secret, but they do have three main technologies. They form the foundation of their whole approach: EOS, CloudVision, and NetDL. These are like the three pillars of the Arista platform.
Okay, let's break those down. First, we've got EOS, the extensible operating system. I'm guessing it's not your average OS, right?
You're right. What's interesting about EOS is it's one operating system. It runs on all of their products. This is a really big change from the old way of doing things. Usually you'd have different operating systems for switches, routers, all the different devices.
So why is that single OS such a big deal? What does it mean for someone who actually manages a network?
Imagine having to learn a new language every time you talk to a different person. That's what it's like to manage a network with different operating systems on all the devices. With EOS, it's like everyone is speaking the same language.
So it's basically making everything simpler, easier to manage and fix problems.
Exactly. And that leads to some real benefits for their customers. Lower costs, faster problem solving, and it's easier to move configurations and policies between devices.
Plus, I bet it's a lot easier for their engineers, too. Having to only work on one OS, it's a win-win. But what about reliability? Is EOS a really solid, stable system?
Absolutely. Arista has put a ton of work into making EOS very reliable. They use modern software development. They do a lot of testing. They even have a specific process to check stability before they release new versions.
So hopefully no more late-night scrambling to fix a network crash. Okay, EOS sounds great, but what about this CloudVision? Is that where all the data-driven stuff comes in?
You got it. CloudVision is all about managing your network. And not the old way, staring at lights and command lines. You can do a ton of different tasks across your entire network. Things like real-time telemetry, security, even some pretty cool analytics.
Wait, cognitive analytics? Is that AI?
Kind of. It uses AI and machine learning to analyze the data from your network. It can see things that a human would probably miss. It's like having an expert constantly watching your network, looking for problems and suggesting ways to improve performance.
That sounds futuristic. So it's like CloudVision gives you this godlike view of your network, and it even gives you helpful tips. I'm sold.
Exactly. And like EOS, it's flexible. You can install it yourself, or Arista can host it in the cloud.
Flexibility is always good. Okay, we've covered EOS and CloudVision. What about that last piece, NetDL? What is that?
NetDL, or Network Data Lake, is where things get really interesting. It takes the whole data-driven idea to the next level. It builds on CloudVision. Think of it like a giant pool of data. All the information flowing through your network goes into it.
Okay, so I'm picturing this data lake overflowing with network packets and logs and all sorts of stuff. But what do you actually do with all of that data? You can't just go swimming in it.
You're right. Data is only useful if you can understand it. That's what makes NetDL special. It doesn't just store data. It brings in information from all sorts of places, including other systems. And the most important part, it uses AI and machine learning to turn that data into something you can use.
So it takes raw data and turns it into something that can actually make your network better.
Exactly. It can find security threats before they cause any problems. It can optimize performance to keep everything running smoothly. It can even predict problems before they happen. This is the future of network management, from static rules and manual configurations to a dynamic AI-driven approach.
This is amazing. It makes sense that we'd use AI to manage something as complicated as a network, but it's still mind-blowing. Is this NetDL thing the key to their network as a service vision?
Absolutely. NetDL is the foundation for Arista's network as a service offering. They're trying to make the network as easy to use as any cloud service. Imagine automated provisioning, upgrades that happen automatically, and lifecycle management that takes care of itself. It's about making the network more responsive, efficient, and agile.
It sounds like they want to make the network feel like any other cloud service. That's ambitious.
Sure.
But can they actually do it? Networking is complex.
It is complex, but Arista isn't doing this alone. They've built a whole network of partners and industry leaders. They're all working together to make this vision a reality.
That's good to hear. So they're getting the best minds in the industry to help them. Sounds like they're serious about network as a service.
They are. And NetDL is what makes it all possible. It gives them a platform to manage data, integrate with analytics tools. It even offers AI-powered access for developers who want to build custom applications.
So they're not just building a product, they're building a whole ecosystem around this idea. That's impressive. But I'm still trying to figure out how it all works in the real world. Can we look at some specific examples?
Definitely. Let's start with their solutions for data centers, cloud environments, and AI workloads. Those are becoming more and more popular. That's where things get really exciting.
Perfect. Let's get into the details. What kind of products do they offer in those areas?
They have a whole range of products for both enterprise and data center networks. They have specific solutions like their 7280, 78800R, 7060X, and 7050X series. Each one is designed for a particular role within those environments.
So it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. They're actually tailoring their solutions to different uses.
Exactly. They know that different workloads have different needs, and their products reflect that. But here's the key. They all run on the same EOS foundation. So you get that same experience, simplicity, and performance no matter which product you choose.
That makes sense. It's like having different tools for different jobs, but they all have the same power source and a familiar interface. But you mentioned something about a universal cloud network architecture. What is that?
That's basically their blueprint for building modern networks. Networks that are agile and scalable, that can handle what businesses need today, regardless of their size. Think of it as a set of design principles that they apply to all their solutions.
So it's not just about the technology, it's about how you think about network design.
Exactly. They're focused on simplicity, agility, scalability, and of course, security. They believe these principles should guide every part of network design and deployment.
That sounds pretty comprehensive. Let's get back to those specific solutions for a minute. You said that AI workloads are especially interesting. Why is that? What makes them so different from traditional networking?
AI is totally different. Traditional networking is mostly about connecting people to applications and data. AI workloads are about connecting machines to huge amounts of data and processing power. That changes everything.
So we're not talking about emails and web browsing here.
Nope, not even close. AI applications are often training complex models, and that means moving enormous amounts of data between GPUs and other hardware. We're talking terabits per second, not gigabits.
Wow, that's a completely different scale. Bandwidth is obviously an issue, but are there other challenges specific to AI networking?
Definitely. The traffic patterns are different. Instead of the normal client-server model, where most traffic goes between a few servers and lots of clients, AI workloads often involve communication between all devices. Every device needs to talk to every other device, and that can cause some serious congestion if the network isn't designed for.
So it sounds like AI is pushing the limits of traditional networks. What is Arista doing to address these challenges?
They've developed a specific set of products called Etherlink AI. It's designed to handle the unique demands of AI workloads.
Okay, Etherlink AI, got it. What makes it so special? What are they doing differently?
They're taking a whole new approach to network design. For example, they use something called single-hop interconnect. This gets rid of the need for intermediate switches. All your AI devices are directly connected to the network, which minimizes latency and maximizes performance.
So it's like building a superhighway just for AI traffic. No detours or traffic jams?
Exactly. They also use something called lossless, fully scheduled design. This makes sure that all the data gets to its destination without any loss or retransmissions. That's crucial for AI workloads, because even a small amount of data loss can mess up the results.
That makes sense. You wouldn't want your AI making decisions based on incomplete data, so they're tackling bandwidth and latency. But what about scalability? Can these solutions handle those massive AI clusters?
Absolutely. Their Etherlink AI portfolio can handle multi-petabit bisectional bandwidth. That means it can handle huge amounts of data without bottlenecking. It can also scale to support tens of thousands of nodes, so you can build truly massive AI clusters.
This is sounding more and more like science fiction. But do they have specific products for those large-scale AI deployments?
Yes, they do. They have switches like the 77000R4 and 7800R4. These are specifically designed for AI spine applications. They use the same lossless, fully scheduled design and have built-in redundancy and resilience, so you can be sure your AI workloads will keep running smoothly, even if there's a hardware problem.
It seems like they've thought of everything, so they've got the hardware figured out. What about the software? How does EOS fit into all this?
EOS is the brains of the operation. It allows Arista to deliver these advanced features. For example, their 77000R4 and 7800R4 switches use a special EOS pipeline. It's optimized for AI workloads. This ensures AI traffic is prioritized and processed quickly, maximizing performance and minimizing latency.
So it's not just about having powerful hardware, it's about having the right software to make the most of it.
That's right. And they've also realized that the AI world is changing. There are dedicated training deployments which focus on building complex AI models, and multi-tenant hosted inference deployments, where the focus is on using those models to make real-time decisions.
So they're not just focusing on one type of AI deployment, they're covering everything.
Exactly. They know that different AI deployments have different needs in terms of scale, workload, predictability, and they have solutions for all of them.
This is really impressive. But what about the future? Where do they see AI networking going?
They have a vision for a holistic AI center, where the network is the core, integrating all the different parts of an AI infrastructure, things like XPUs, which are processors designed for AI, high-speed NICs, and of course the network switches.
So they're not just thinking about connecting devices, they're thinking about creating an integrated ecosystem for AI.
Exactly. They believe that the network should be the foundation for a truly unified AI infrastructure, enabling communication and data flow between all the different components. This is a pretty forward-thinking vision, but it could have a big impact on how AI is used in the future.
It's exciting to think about the possibilities for AI networking, but we've been focusing a lot on AI. What about their other solutions? I know they're also making a big impact in campus networking.
You're right. Arista isn't just about data centers and AI. They have a compelling vision for the future of campus networking. They call it the cognitive campus.
Cognitive campus? That's an interesting name. What's the idea behind that?
It's about bringing that same data-driven cloud-like experience to the campus. They want to make campus networks as agile, efficient, secure, and as easy to manage as cloud networks.
That sounds like a big challenge. How are they going to do that? Campus networks have their own unique challenges.
They've developed a whole suite of products and solutions specifically for the campus. Building on their EOS and CloudVision platforms, they've introduced things like the 7-20 series PoE switches, the 7300X spline, CloudVision for campus, cloud-based Wi-Fi, the 750 series modular and compact PoE switches. They're even bringing the network data lake to the campus. They've integrated WAN routing, edge threat management, their AI-driven network detection and response, and identity-based security with Arista Guardian Network Identity. They're even offering Arista Edge as a service.
Wow, that's a lot. It sounds like they're all in on the campus. Can we go over some of the highlights? What are the key things that make their cognitive campus vision so different?
One of the most exciting things is their focus on high-speed wireless. They have the C460 access point, which supports Wi-Fi 7.
Wi-Fi 7, I've been hearing a lot about that lately. Isn't that supposed to be a huge improvement for wireless technology?
It is. It's faster, more efficient, and more reliable. The C460 has features like 320 MHz channels. It's like having a wider highway for data, so more information can flow at once. They also have multi-link operation, which is like having multiple lanes on that highway. Then there's 4K QAM, compressed block acknowledgements, and the ability to have multiple resource units connected to a single station. All these features make for a much better wireless experience.
So it's not just about faster downloads, it's about making new applications and uses possible. Applications that need high bandwidth and low latency.
Exactly. Things like industrial IoT, where you have sensors and devices constantly communicating, or AR and VR, which need a ton of data to create realistic virtual worlds. Even things like online gaming and high-resolution video streaming will be much better with Wi-Fi 7.
It sounds like Wi-Fi 7 is going to be a game changer for campuses. But what about security?
Hmm.
With all these devices connecting to the network, that has to be a top priority.
Absolutely. And Arista has a multi-layered security approach for their cognitive campus. They're using segmentation, encryption, and threat detection, just like in their other solutions. But they're also using AI and machine learning to improve security.
So they're not just using traditional security measures, they're using AI to actively find and respond to threats.
That's right. Their AI-driven network detection and response solution is a great example of this. It uses machine learning to analyze network traffic and find anything unusual that could be a security breach. This lets them detect and respond to threats right away.
So they're basically making the network itself into a security sensor. That's pretty cool. But what about user access? How are they making sure only authorized users can get on the network?
They're using identity-based security with their Arista Guardian network identity solution. They're moving away from the old way of trusting devices based on location or IP address. They're focusing on verifying the user no matter what device they're using or where they're connecting from.
So it's not about the device, it's about who you are.
Exactly. This lets them have very specific access control policies. So only authorized users can get to sensitive data and applications. It's a much more secure approach to campus networking.
It definitely sounds like they're taking security seriously. Okay, so they have the campus covered, but what about the WAN? Most organizations have multiple locations, and connecting them securely and efficiently is a big challenge.
You're right. The WAN is often the weakest part of the network. It connects all your locations and often uses public infrastructure. But Arista have a modern WAN architecture that's designed to handle these challenges.
Okay, tell me more. What makes their WAN architecture so special?
They're focusing on a few key things: multi-access, federated architecture, virtual topologies, and of course security through a zero-trust foundation.
Okay, let's go through those one by one. First, what's multi-access all about?
Multi-access means that their one architecture can use different types of connections. It can use traditional MPLS, internet connections, dedicated fiber, Lambda for high bandwidth, cloud backbones for direct connections to cloud services, even LeoSat, which uses satellites for connectivity in remote locations.
So they're not limiting you to just one type of connection. That gives you more flexibility and makes the network more resilient in case one connection fails.
Exactly. And their federated architecture means you can use both traditional routing and SD-WAN without any compromises. So you get the best of both worlds, the predictability of routing and the agility and cost-effectiveness of SD-WAN.
That sounds like a good combination. But what about those virtual topologies? What are they and why are they important?
Virtual topologies let you create logical networks. These networks are separate from the physical infrastructure. This means you can create different networks for different purposes, like guest access, IoT devices, or specific departments, even if they're all using the same physical infrastructure. You can even make these topologies aware of applications, user identities, or security segments.
That's a powerful feature. It lets you control traffic flow in a much more detailed way. But what about security? How does that fit into their WAN architecture?
Security is really important, especially for the WAN. Arista uses a zero-trust approach. This means they assume that no device or user can be trusted by default. Every connection needs to be checked and authorized, no matter where it's coming from.
So it's like having a security checkpoint at every entrance and exit of your network.
Exactly. They use a variety of security technologies to do this, including segmentation, encryption, and threat detection. They've even made a visual representation of their WAN architecture. It shows how data centers, SaaS services, security overlays, campuses, critical sites, branch offices, edge locations, and cloud services are all connected, all within a self-healing and autonomously traffic-engineered WAN.
It's like they're building a fortress around your network. But I'm curious, what kind of hardware do they use to support this advanced WAN architecture?
They've introduced their spine and routing R3 series portfolio. It's designed specifically for high-performance WAN environments.
R3 series, okay. Tell me more. What makes these products special?
The R3 series includes both fixed and modular products. They're all built using the latest silicon from Broadcom, the Jericho 2C Plus and Qumran 2C Plus lies. They have tons of features like universal tunnel sec TM encryption, which secures your traffic, dense 400G DWDM support for high bandwidth, rich EVPN services for creating those flexible virtual topologies. They've even reduced power consumption by 50% per 100 GBps.
Wow, that's impressive. So they're delivering high performance while being energy efficient, but can these products handle the scale of modern WANs?
Absolutely. Arista is really pushing their cloud-grade routing message with the R3 series. It can scale from 1 gigabit to a massive 460 terabits per second. And it still keeps those consistent R-series features and, of course, EOS. It's like having the power of a huge cloud network in your own WAN.
That's a bold statement, but can you give me some real-world examples of how these routing solutions are being used? Who are they targeting with these products?
Their routing solutions are designed for a lot of different customers and uses. Things like internet-scale routing and policy enforcement for service providers, building those massive AI and machine learning clusters we talked about, high-frequency trading and other demanding applications in finance, powering supercomputers and high-performance computing clusters for research and engineering, even supporting media-heavy work like render farms, broadcasting, and post-production. And let's not forget IP storage networks, data centers, big data clusters, cloud backbones, and internet exchange points. They really cover a lot.
It's incredible how their routing solutions are being used in so many different industries. But is there something that connects all these deployments? What are these customers looking for?
Well, there are some common requirements. They all need strong security to protect their data and applications. They all need scalability to handle the increasing amount of data and traffic. They need optimized routing to make sure data flows efficiently and reliably. And of course, they all need high-performance computing capabilities.
It sounds like Arista is in a good position to meet those requirements with their R3 series and their focus on data-driven networking.
Exactly. Their routing solutions are designed to deliver on all of those requirements.
Let's go back to security for a second. We talked about their zero-trust approach for the WAN. But how does that translate into actual solutions? What are they actually doing to implement zero trust in their products and services?
Arista knows that the traditional approach to security is outdated. You can't just build a wall around your network and trust everything inside anymore. That doesn't work in today's world with cloud computing, mobile devices, and remote work. It's too hard to define and enforce a secure perimeter.
So what's the solution? How do you secure a network that doesn't really have borders?
That's where zero trust comes in. It assumes that no device or user can be trusted. It doesn't matter where they are or how they're connected. Instead of relying on perimeter-based security, zero trust focuses on verifying every user and device that tries to access resources on the network.
So it's like having a bodyguard for every device and user on the network.
Exactly. And Arista believes the network itself is key to implementing zero trust. They think the network can provide the things you need for a zero trust model, like observability, confidentiality, segmentation, threat detection, and access control.
Okay, I'm interested to hear more about this. How does the network actually do all of that? Can you give me some examples?
Sure. Let's start with observability. Traditional networks are often like black boxes. You know data is flowing through, but you don't really know what it is or where it's going. This makes it hard to find and respond to security threats.
It's like driving a car with a blindfold on. You know you're moving, but you have no idea where you're going or what's in your way.
Exactly. But Arista is changing that with their data-driven approach. They're building switches that act like sensors. They collect information about network traffic and send it to their CloudVision and NetDL platforms.
So now you can take off the blindfold and see what's happening.
Exactly. You can see traffic flows, application usage, user activity, even security events in real time. This lets you identify potential threats early on and take steps to stop them before they cause any damage.
That's a big improvement. But what about confidentiality? How are they protecting sensitive data as it travels across the network?
Arista believes that encryption is essential for network security. They're using encryption at different levels of the network, so data is protected both when it's moving and when it's stored. This includes things like ASEC, which encrypts point-to-point connections, and IPsec, which secures traffic between different parts of the network.
So it's like they're encrypting your data before it even leaves your device.
Exactly. This makes it much harder for attackers to steal information, even if they manage to get onto the network.
Okay, encryption makes sense. What about segmentation? You mentioned that earlier. How does that fit into the zero trust model?
Segmentation is about dividing your network into smaller, isolated zones. This helps to contain security threats and limit the damage they can cause. Instead of letting any device talk to any other device, segmentation lets you restrict communication to only the devices that need to communicate.
So it's like creating separate secure compartments within your network.
Exactly. If one compartment is breached, the damage is contained, and the rest of the network is safe.
That's a great analogy. How does Arista actually implement segmentation in their solutions?
They use a combination of technologies, VLANs, VXLANs, and ACLs, to create and enforce these virtual boundaries. And with their CloudVision platform, you can easily manage and automate these policies, so it's much easier to adapt to changing security needs.
It sounds like they're making segmentation much easier to handle. But what about threat detection? How are they finding the attackers who are trying to get into the network?
Arista uses a multi-pronged approach to threat detection. They use traditional security measures like intrusion detection and prevention systems to analyze network traffic and look for anything suspicious, but they're also using AI and machine learning to improve their threat detection.
So they're using AI to fight cybercrime.
Exactly. Their network detection and response solution, or NDR, uses machine learning to analyze data from the network and identify anomalies, things that could indicate a security breach. This includes things like unusual traffic patterns, suspicious login attempts, and attempts to access sensitive data without authorization.
So it's like having an AI-powered security guard watching your network.
Exactly. And because it uses AI, it gets better over time. It learns and adapts to find new threats.
That's amazing. So they've got observability, confidentiality, segmentation, and threat detection covered. What of the last piece, access control? How are they ensuring that only authorized users and devices can access resources?
Arista is taking a modern approach to access control. They're moving beyond traditional username and password authentication. They're implementing multi-factor authentication, which means users have to provide multiple forms of identification before they can access anything. This could include something they know, like a password, something they have, like a smartphone, or something they are, like a fingerprint.
So it's much harder for attackers to pretend to be someone else.
Exactly. They're also integrating their access control with their identity management systems, so they can have very specific access control policies based on user roles, group memberships, and other factors.
So it's not just about who you are, it's about what you're allowed to do on the network.
Precisely. This way they can make sure users only access the resources they need, which reduces the risk of a security breach.
It sounds like they've really thought about everything when it comes to zero trust. But how do they manage all these different security solutions?
That's where CloudVision comes in. It acts as a central control panel. You can see and manage all your Arista security solutions from one place. You can create security policies, set access controls, monitor threats, and even automate security responses, all from CloudVision.
So it's like a security command center for your entire network.
Exactly. And because CloudVision is data-driven, it can connect information from all your different security solutions. This gives you a complete picture of your security, so you can find potential weaknesses and fix them before they're exploited.
It's like having a team of security experts constantly checking your network for problems. Let's step back for a minute and talk about the bigger picture. What are some of the key trends shaping the future of network security? Where is all this headed?
Well, as we've been discussing, the traditional idea of a network perimeter is disappearing. You can't just rely on perimeter security anymore. It's not enough in today's world with cloud computing, mobile devices, and people working from everywhere. Organizations need to adopt a zero-trust model if they want to stay ahead of the threats.
So zero trust is the future.
It is. It's a fundamental shift in how we approach network security. Another big trend is using AI and machine learning for security. We've already talked about how Arista uses AI in their NDR solution, but this trend is only going to get bigger in the next few years.
Yeah, that makes sense. AI is really good at analyzing tons of data and finding patterns that humans might miss. It's like having a digital detective that never sleeps, always watching your network.
Exactly. AI can automate a lot of the tasks that security professionals are doing manually right now. That frees them up to focus on more strategic work. And as AI gets more advanced, it will be able to detect and respond to threats even better. We're also seeing a big push towards automation in network security.
That sounds good. So instead of manually setting up firewalls and intrusion detection systems, you can automate those tasks and let your IT team focus on more important things.
Exactly. Automation helps to reduce human error, which is often a big cause of security breaches. It can also make security operations faster and more agile, so organizations can respond to threats more quickly and effectively.
All this is really interesting. But it also sounds pretty complicated. It feels like managing network security is getting harder and harder.
It is a complex area, but that's where Arista's approach really stands out. They're not just offering separate security products. They have a whole security platform that brings all their solutions together into one system.
So it's not just about having the best firewall or the best intrusion detection system. It's about having all those things working together smoothly.
Exactly. And that's where CloudVision is so important. It's the brain of the operation. It manages all the different security components and gives you a central view of your security. This makes it much easier to manage your security environment, even as it gets more and more complex.
Okay, I'm starting to see the bigger picture now. Arista is taking a holistic, data-driven approach to security. They're using AI and automation to create a complete security platform that's easy to manage. And it's more effective at protecting against the latest threats.
That's a great summary. They're trying to make security simpler without making it less effective.
That's fantastic. I'm sure our listeners appreciate that clear explanation. We've covered a lot of ground. But before we go on, I wanted to go back to one of the key things we discussed. Arista's single OS approach with EOS. Can you remind our listeners why that's so important and how it makes Arista different from its competitors?
Of course, Arista's commitment to using one operating system across all their products is a big deal in the networking industry. Most other vendors have different operating systems for their different products, which can make things really complicated for network administrators.
It's like trying to put together a puzzle, but all the pieces are from different puzzles.
Exactly. But with EOS, you have one operating system. It runs on everything, from their data center switches to their campus access points. This makes network management easier, reduces training costs, and ensures a consistent experience across your entire network.
So it's like having one set of instructions for all your networking devices, no matter what they do or where they are.
Exactly. And because EOS has a modular design, it's easy to add new features and functionality without having to replace your whole network. Arista is always updating EOS with new capabilities, so you can be sure your network will be able to handle whatever your business needs.
It sounds like EOS is a real game changer for the networking world. But I'm curious, what's the secret behind EOS? What makes it so extensible and adaptable?
EOS is built on a modern open source foundation, so it can take advantage of the latest advancements in software development. It's also designed to be programmable. Network administrators can easily customize and extend its functionality using standard programming languages like Python.
So it's not a closed system. It's actually open to customization and can be integrated with other tools and platforms.
That's right. This makes EOS incredibly powerful and versatile. You can connect it to your existing monitoring tools, automate network configurations. You can even build your own applications that interact with the network.
It's like having a Lego set for network management. You can build whatever you want.
That's a great way to put it. And because EOS is constantly being updated, the possibilities are endless.
EOS is clearly a big advantage for Arista. But I want to get back to real-world applications. Let's talk about some specific examples of how organizations are using Arista's technology to solve real problems.
Definitely. One great example is how Arista is helping organizations build and manage high-performance computing clusters. These clusters are used for all sorts of things, from scientific research and financial modeling to weather forecasting and drug discovery.
These are the supercomputers that are pushing the limits of what we know.
Exactly. And they need massive amounts of computing power and extremely fast networking to work properly.
So it's not just about connecting a few servers. It's about creating a really integrated system that can handle incredibly demanding work.
Precisely. And that's where Arista really shines. Their high-performance switches and routing platforms are designed specifically for these environments. They provide the bandwidth, speed, and scalability needed to support these huge clusters.
So they're helping to power the next generation of scientific discovery and innovation. That's pretty cool. Are there other examples of how Arista's technology is being used in the real world?
Of course. Another great example is how they're helping organizations implement zero-trust security models. We talked about the principles of zero trust. But let's look at how it's actually being used.
Okay, let's get into the specifics.
One of the hardest things about implementing zero trust is managing user access. Traditionally, organizations have used perimeter-based security. Basically, you build a wall around your network and trust everyone inside. But we've already talked about why this isn't effective anymore. With cloud computing, mobile devices, and remote work.
So you can't just rely on a firewall anymore.
Right. You need a more detailed way of controlling access. One that focuses on verifying the identity of every user and device that tries to access the network. And that's where Arista's Guardian Network Identity solution comes in.
Okay, tell me more about Guardian. How does it help with zero trust?
Guardian is a cloud-based solution that provides identity-based network access control. It connects with your existing identity management systems, like Active Directory, or Azure Active Directory. And it lets you create detailed access policies based on things like user roles, group memberships, device status, and other factors.
So instead of granting access based on your network location, it's based on who you are and what you're allowed to do.
Exactly. So even if someone gets into your network, they won't be able to access anything they're not authorized to use.
That's a big improvement over the old security models. But how does Guardian actually work? How does it enforce those access policies?
Guardian uses a few different techniques, including network segmentation, traffic filtering, and device profiling. This ensures that only authorized traffic is allowed on the network. It can also change access policies automatically based on changes in user behavior or security threats. So it provides a flexible level of protection.
So it's not just a fixed set of rules, it's actually learning and adapting to the changing security landscape.
Exactly. And because it's integrated with CloudVision, you get a central view of your entire security situation, making it easier to monitor and manage access control policies across your network.
It sounds like Guardian is a really powerful tool for implementing zero-trust security. But are there other examples of how Arista is helping organizations improve their security?
Definitely. Network detection and response, or NDR, is another key area. As we mentioned before, NDR solutions use AI and machine learning to analyze network traffic and find anything unusual that could indicate a security breach.
So it's like having a digital detective always watching your network for suspicious activity.
That's right. And Arista's NDR solution is especially effective because it uses the huge amount of data collected by their switches and routers. This data tells you a lot about what's happening on the network. So the NDR engine can spot patterns and anomalies that traditional security tools might miss.
So it's not just looking for known threats, it's looking for anything that seems out of place.
Exactly. So it can find both known and unknown threats, including zero-day attacks and advanced persistent threats, or APTs.
That's really impressive. But what happens when the NDR solution finds a potential threat? What does it do to minimize the risk?
Arista's NDR solution has several automatic responses. It can block malicious traffic, quarantine infected devices, and alert security personnel. It can also connect with other security tools like security information and event management systems, or SIEMs, and threat intelligence platforms. This provides a more comprehensive security response.
So it's not just passively watching, it can actually take action to neutralize threats.
Exactly. And because it uses AI, it gets smarter over time, becomes more effective at detecting and responding to threats.
It sounds like Arista is a real leader in network security innovation.
They are. Their focus on data-driven networking, AI, and automation is helping organizations build networks that are more secure and resilient, networks that can adapt to the constantly changing threat landscape.
I think we've learned a lot today. From Arista's single OS approach with EOS, to their data-driven security platform and their innovative solutions for high-performance computing, and zero-trust security. But before we wrap up, I'd like to hear your overall thoughts on Arista. What are their strengths, and where do you see them going in the future?
Arista is clearly a company that focuses on innovation and providing value to its customers. Their single OS approach with EOS is a big change for the industry. It makes network management simpler and provides a consistent experience across the whole network. Their data-driven approach, using AI and machine learning, is helping organizations build networks that are smarter, more efficient, and more secure. And their commitment to open standards and interoperability means their solutions can work with what you already have.
So they're not trying to force you to use only their products. They actually want their solutions to work with your existing systems.
Exactly. They know that organizations have complex IT environments and that they need solutions that can fit in with their existing systems.
That's great. But what about the future? Where do you think Arista is going in the next few years?
I think we'll see Arista continue to grow in key areas like cloud networking and AI. They've already made big progress in these markets. And I think they'll continue to innovate and develop solutions that meet their customers' needs.
So they're not slowing down. They're still looking for new challenges.
Absolutely. They have a history of innovation. And I don't see that changing anytime soon. I also think they'll keep investing in their software and services, building on what they've already done with CloudVision and their other cloud-based offerings.
It sounds like they're becoming more than just a hardware company. They're becoming a complete networking solutions provider.
That's right. They're adapting to the changing needs of their customers.
That's a smart move. The networking world is always changing. And it's important for companies like Arista to change with it.
Absolutely. And I think Arista is in a good position to do that. They have strong leadership, talented engineers, and a clear vision for the future of networking.
It's been really interesting learning about Arista Networks today. They're definitely a company that's pushing the limits of what's possible in the networking world.
I agree. They're a company to keep an eye on.
Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into Arista Networks. I hope our listeners found it informative and interesting.
I did. It was a great discussion.
But before we sign off, I want to leave our listeners with one last thought. We've talked a lot about technology today, but ultimately networking is all about connecting people and helping them do amazing things. Whether it's scientists collaborating on important research, doctors providing life-saving care, or artists creating beautiful works of art, the network is what connects us and allows us to reach our full potential.
That's a great point. It reminds us that technology is only as good as the people who use it.
Exactly. So as we keep exploring the world of networking, let's not forget about the human element. After all, it's people who make the network truly meaningful.
I couldn't agree more.
That's a really great point. It's easy to get lost in all the technical stuff, but it's true. Technology is really just a tool. It's about helping people connect and make progress.
I totally agree. And I think Arista gets that. They're not just building networks, they're building something bigger.
Yeah.
They're building the foundation for a more connected and intelligent world.
Speaking of the future, I'm curious what you think is next for Arista. They've already accomplished so much. Where do they go from here?
Well, I think we'll see them keep expanding into areas like cloud networking and AI. They've already done a lot in those markets. And I expect them to keep innovating and coming up with solutions that meet their customers' needs.
So they're not slowing down. They're still looking for new challenges.
Oh, absolutely. They've always been innovative, and I don't think that's going to change. I also think they'll keep investing in their software and services, building on the success they've had with CloudVision and their other cloud offerings.
It sounds like they're moving beyond just being a hardware company. They're becoming a full-fledged networking solutions provider.
Exactly. They understand that software and services are becoming more and more important in the networking world, and they're making the right moves to stay ahead.
That's a smart strategy. The networking world is constantly changing. Companies like Arista need to change with it to stay relevant.
I agree. And I think Arista is well positioned to do just that. They have great leadership, a talented team of engineers, and they have a clear vision for the future of networking.
It's been really fascinating to learn about Arista Networks today. They're clearly a company that's pushing the limits of what's possible in networking.
I agree. Definitely a company to watch.
Well, I think that brings us to the end of our deep dive into Arista Networks. I hope everyone listening found it informative and helpful.
It's a great conversation.
Absolutely. Before we go, I want to leave our listeners with one last thought. We've talked a lot about the technology today, but at the end of the day, networking is about connecting people. It's about helping people do incredible things, whether it's scientists working together on groundbreaking research, doctors saving lives, or artists creating beautiful works of art. It's the network that connects us and allows us to reach our full potential.
That's a really powerful way to put it. It reminds us that technology is only as good as the people who use it.
Exactly. So as we continue to explore this amazing world of networking, let's not forget the human side of it all. It's the people who make the network truly special.
I couldn't agree more.
To all our listeners, thanks for joining us on this journey into the world of Arista Networks. We hope you enjoyed it and learned something new. If you want to learn even more about Arista and what they do, head over to their website at www.arista.com. They've got tons of resources there, like white papers, case studies, and webinars. And if you have any questions or comments, feel free to connect with us on social media. We always love to hear from you. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep into the world of technology.